everybody, it's Brian Lewis here again to talk to you about your digital marketing. If you want to really make sure that your website is the most effective marketing tool it can be, you're probably going to want to do testing. In other words, after your site's redesigned, you're not done. And when it comes to testing, the most traditional way that marketers do testing is what's called A/B split testing, where they send a portion of their traffic to their existing page and then a portion of the traffic to the test page. And they sit back and wait until they reach what's called statistically significant results, and then they look at the data and they choose which one won. Now what can happen is you have a site that doesn't get a lot of traffic and doesn't have a lot of conversions. You may have to wait a long time, and in that sense, time can actually be your enemy. And there's a few reasons why you don't want to wait a long time when you're testing. One is the seasonality. What happens if you're running your test, it takes a couple months, and then you run into, let's say, the holiday season or some other season that impacts your business. That's really going to invalidate your test. Another would be maybe you're changing your product or your service during the time that this test is running, if the test runs long enough. Perhaps you're changing your marketing tactics, or maybe there's a competitive change. So what happens is when we have to spread that time out, there's a lot of exogenous factors that could play into the test results. So, and actually the situation gets worse too if you have a small traffic site, because really the best way to test is to test by segments. In other words, your mobile traffic is probably going to behave differently than your desktop traffic, and you probably want to do a separate test for that. Your visitors may actually behave differently on your site based on what traffic source they're coming from, whether they're coming from Google Organic or paid search or email, and so you want to segment that even more. So what happens is if you have a site that's got small traffic, small conversions, then you segment it out. Now you're really talking about tiny traffic and tiny conversions. So what happens is it's going to take a long time for your test results to be meaningful. Some rough guidelines. You probably don't want your test to run more than about 6 weeks. Anything beyond 6 weeks, you may start running into some of these problems. So what is kind of a good benchmark to decide if you have enough traffic and conversions to do A/B split testing? Well, think about or check your analytics and see, do you have about 1,000 visitors, unique visitors per week? And are you getting roughly 50 conversions per week for each segment of the test? If you have that much, then A/B split testing is probably going to be a good solution for you. If you don't, then stay tuned, because in the next segment I'm going to be talking about some alternatives. This is Brian Lewis signing off.